recently The Sopranos hit the 25th anniversary. However, I only just saw it a few months ago and I finished it now for the first time. This is a show where I've heard about it for so long. People were talking about how good it was, how good the acting was, that it's one of the greatest shows of all time. However, I only just saw it very recently and I finished it, so I'm going to be talking about it. That includes spoilers, so just in case you've not seen The Sopranos, if you're late like I was, which I imagine most of you probably have seen, but just in case, I am going to be mentioning spoilers, including the last episode, last season, everything. So, this is a show that is so good, I don't even know where to start. So if you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor. I guarantee you will love it just like I did. So The Sopranos is so good, I don't even know where to start. There's so many great things to say about this show. I guess I'll start off with the main man, Tony Soprano, who is played by James Gandolfini, and I cannot say how insanely good he is playing Tony Sopranos. Like, no one else could have played this character apart from him. Like, you hear, people talking about how great The Godfather is when it comes to the acting. Like, literally, that movie has Marlon Brando, Al Pacino, etc. Literally, the greatest actors of all time. Well, James Gandolfini as Tony Soprano, I think is better than Marlon Brando and Al Pacino put together. He is that good. He's ridiculously good. But not just him, which surprised me, actually. Everyone else in this show is legit Oscar-worthy. It's just ridiculous how good the acting is in this show. And there's only one reason why. It's because you're watching it and you're thinking, there's no way they're not playing themselves. Like, there's so many characters in this show. The Uncle Junior, Tony's uncle. There's no way you watch him and he's not playing himself. He is one of my favourite characters in the whole show. He is so funny, so goofy. Every time he's just there, I just start laughing because, I don't know, just the way he talks, but his glasses, his huge glasses just look so funny. Another example is Tony's mother. She is full on horrible, mardy, miserable. But again, you watch her and think, there's no way she isn't like that in real life. She is playing herself. That is how good the acting is in this show. She was so good, she was supposed to die in season 1 of Sopranos. But she was so good, they kept her in season 2. And yeah, they even kept her because her acting was that phenomenal. Paulie, I think, is actually the closest one to actually playing the real life version of him because it turns out he was a full-on gangster. He was legit in jail at 13 years old. I heard that everyone on set was actually afraid, quite scared of him, and you can so tell. Paulie, you do watch and think this guy is playing himself 100%. He was even in Goodfellas too. Quite a few familiar faces in this show, and that's something I do like about The Sopranos. They do constantly reference movies like The Godfather, Goodfellas, but literally it has some of the actors in Goodfellas. But James Gandolfini, he was so damn good at it. Literally some of the best acting I've ever seen in it. A movie, a TV show. But what's so great about The Sopranos, not only the acting, but the writing. Tony Sopranos is literally a supervillain. He is an evil man. He can literally go and kill someone and come home to his family dinner. Killing people is just kind of normal, or just doing bad crime stuff, as he's legit the mafia. But what's also crazy is that when you're watching Tony throughout the show, he's a very bad man, but he's also a very normal guy as well. He's a guy that loves his family, and that's the biggest thing about his character for me. How much he loves his family. He's a full-on family man, suffers with panic attacks, and he goes and see his therapist, which is this. I can literally The therapist stuff is so entertaining because you get like literally full-on monologues of Tony Soprano, and just you see how great the acting is. You're really full-on invested in his character. Yeah, like all the stories Tony is telling to the therapist is all interesting non-stop. You can literally listen to these characters just talking to each other for hours and hours. Even Tony falling in love with the therapist, I think, is something interesting. Like, everything interesting they can do with a character and make the character grow and make him better just by small details like this already makes Tony Soprano a better character than he already is. She's like the one woman as well Tony can't get, it seems. Tony literally gets and bangs everyone that moves. That's why Christopher proper thinks that Tony did get with Adriana, but he didn't. But that's the thing with Tony. He literally bangs everyone that moves. And it seems the therapist is the only woman he wants but doesn't get. Like, he asks her out on dates multiple times. No matter how hard he tries, he still can't get with the therapist. Even she's a great side character as well. Like, she even got, like, raped as well, and that's such a obviously horrible moment, and you really want her to tell Tony what happened, but she doesn't. It is something that just kind of comes and goes and doesn't really come back later on in the show, but it's something where you really want her to tell Tony, but she doesn't. Another great character is Christopher for me. Christopher is a very, very bad guy, but he's also a very confused guy. He's a lot younger than everyone in the mafia. He's Tony's nephew, and he loves him a lot. Literally, there's times where Christopher does something so bad, Tony would have killed him if it wasn't for the fact he loves him so much. But at the same time, he also wants a very normal life. Like, you see episodes where he wants to be in the film business, and he's in a... Like, literally, there's an episode with Ben Kingsley and Jon Favreau as well. So Christopher wants, like, a normal life as well. He even has a girlfriend as well, Adrian, who is super, super fine. Adrian, every time she's there, you're thinking, not only is she so beautiful, but she's so nice. And you're thinking, how has Christopher, this horrible guy who legit, like, hits her multiple times, he's not nice to her at all, how has he got legit this 10 out of 10, but so likable and lovely person? That's the thing about Adriana. She's so nice. And, like, yeah, there's some even more interesting stuff about Adriana that I'll get into later, which involves huge spoilers. But Christopher, that's something so great about his character. He wants to be like a normal guy, but he's kind of stuck with the mafia. But at the same time, he wants to be like the big top guy. Like, there's a scene where, you know, he shoots someone in the foot. This must be a reference to Goodfellas, because he, I'm pretty sure, is the guy that gets shot in the foot by Joe Pesci in Goodfellas. So that must be a reference, surely. Also, there's so many scenes where the characters are just eating. The characters, they eat all the time. Literally, one of the characters, Arthur, who literally is a chef, he owns a restaurant and stuff like that. All these side characters are so good. Bobby as well, he's a great character. Tony's sister, Janice, is a great character. These are all, like, characters as well. Like, full on, like, huge personalities. Like, you see so much character in them, and that's why they are so great. I mean, just look at Junior. This guy, this goofball is so goofy and funny. There's one thing, every time he's on screen, you're thinking, this guy is a character. Adriana, so eventually she gets caught by the FBI. We're going to be jumping into a little bit of the story now. But so Adriana gets caught by the FBI by her friend who was at FBI. You kind of know what this is leading up to, and it is so devastating what did happen to Adriana. Like, you know, of course she, you know, of course Adriana does get whacked. She does die. And that is, like, such a heartbreaking death, because she only wanted what was best for her and the person that she loved, which was Christopher. In movies and TV shows where it has, like, good acting in it, there's always that, like, one moment where you know it's going to get them the awards and it's going to get people talking about them. pretty much there's like so many, like countless scenes where James Gandolfini has that scene. Even when he's just arguing with Camilla and it gets like heavy and, you know, he starts shouting, there's the acting in both of the actors are incredible here. When Tony is confronting his mother in the hospital as well, that is such a iconic acting scene. So many scenes where it's just the acting is absolutely incredible. But also the acting from Camilla. One of the great episodes is where Camilla and Tony, they actually split up. When it comes to the emotions of the acting, Camilla in this episode was really, really great. You could feel like, you know, like Tony is a really bad guy because he constantly cheats on his wife. He kills people, he beats people up, this guy's a full-on mafia boss. So when you do find out that Camilla has been betrayed by Tony, you really see her acting in this, and is so great. I even like the stuff with Carmela and Fiorio, that they kind of like fall in love with each other, but he of course knows that he's in love with the wife of Tony Sopranos. Not a good idea. I think something about The Sopranos as well is that every season is pretty much just as good as the other one, I would say. Maybe the first 2 or season 4 is the best one, but you could all say they are all just as good as each other. Because it's all just full on just chit-chat, eating, with all these great characters. But the only actors who aren't legit like 10 out of 10 actors are Tony's kids. And they are still like quite decent. And I respect them quite a lot as well, to say that they need to show up with legit some of the greatest actors of all time. They did do pretty good. And I also really liked what they did with AJ's character in the last season. He was such a great character, if not one of the best characters in the last season. I also like the stuff they do with Vito in the last season. Like before the last season, Vito was just kind of like there as like a side character. But the fact he was gay, and obviously that's a very bad thing when you're the mafia won't like that. Also, of course, he runs away, but then he comes back as well. But the whole story plot with Vito was a very interesting thing they did with his character, I think. One of the best episodes, actually. I'm going to be saying that a lot. Pretty much every episode is like an absolute banger. I'm going to be saying one of the best episodes in the show, even though I could say that about pretty much every episode. But one of the best episodes in the show, it's pretty early on, but it's Tony and his daughter, Meadow, where they're just like kind of driving around, and pretty much where she finds out that she knows that her father is a gangster. I think that is a really great episode. When it's just those two, just driving around, father and daughter time, that's a really great episode, especially when he's literally one side being a father and the other side, he legit goes and like strangles someone to death. So literally you're getting two sides of Tony Soprano here, but pretty much the same guy as well. That's kind of the whole point of him. Another great moment is when that guy in the cafe shop comes over to her and says super weird stuff to her, and then Tony gets his revenge and beats full on the living crap out of him. Like, there's just so many scenes, so many great scenes of Tony just going and beating the absolute crap out of people, especially when it's, people that owes him money. Literally, he meets like an old friend, and he's like a gambling addict, and he borrows money from Tony. And he doesn't pay it back, of course. So he goes and beats the crap out of him. So he even beats people up who he even likes. It does not matter to him. If you mess with Tony Soprano, you're in a lot of trouble. And you feel how dangerous and bad he can really be when he's this violent to people. You see Tony do all these like awful things. But yeah, when it comes to, you still somehow kind of care about him. Like when Tony gets shot by the uncle, you're thinking, do you really want Tony to die? Even right at the end of the very last episode, where, some people think he does get killed right on the spot in front of his family. Personally, do I think he gets killed on the spot? No. In my opinion, I don't think Tony gets killed in front of his family. But he does die eventually. Like, obviously, everyone dies eventually, but, I mean, like, he's gonna die, like, soon. Maybe, like, he gets whacked eventually, or he dies from, I don't know, maybe a heart attack or something like that, maybe. But I don't think he dies on the spot like some people do. Just him talking to his friends as well. You know, him after getting shot as well, Tony Soprano, you see how weaker he becomes. I think that's why he ends up beating up his like full-on hench bodyguard for like no reason. You know, he wants to be like the big man again. Like he always wants to be the number one man, Tony Soprano, which he is. That's the thing. One of my favorite episodes in the show actually is the like dream sequence where Tony's in a coma. That's like a full-on David Lynch episode. That was super cool episode, I think. I also like how Tony Soprano like loves animals. Like he loved that horse. Ralph as well. This is a character. That's the thing. There's so many characters. I hope I don't forget or miss any. But Ralph, who from The Matrix, this is a character that comes in and you know that this guy is going to get whacked. But he's family made, so, you know, he's a dangerous, important guy for some people. So killing him just because you don't like him doesn't quite work like that. But eventually Tony does kill him because he killed the horse. Just things like that, that Tony loves animals and stuff like that. And just new characters coming in. Steve Buscemi comes in. He was a great, interesting character. He was the cousin of Tony Soprano, and he had to kill him because he killed some of the bad guys' people. It's also very unpredictable, The Sopranos. Something about the last season, this isn't a problem or a complaint, but the last season doesn't really feel like the last season. Again, this isn't a complaint. I do think The Sopranos ends quite perfectly, but it doesn't really feel like the last season. Like when you're watching Breaking Bad, for example, you know you're in the end game. But the first part, anyway, of Sopranos, you don't really feel like you're in the last season, but it's still good. There's also some very surprises with the way Christopher dies in the show as well. So earlier in the show, Christopher almost gets killed by Tony because, you know, Christopher walks in with a gun in his club because he thinks Tony slept with Adriana. That scene was so like tense. You really do feel like Tony is going to kill Christopher from that spot, but he doesn't. And then in the last season, Christopher dies in a car accident. And he could have survived it, but Tony does end up killing him, which is quite heartbreaking, actually, because you do see how great the chemistry is throughout the show. And just, like, these two are very, like, you know, very close. Like I said earlier, Christopher, there's plenty of times where he would have been killed if it wasn't for Tony. Also, the fact Christopher, probably should have mentioned this earlier, but he's a huge drug addict. That's his biggest thing, actually. Not only he's so confused, he does loads of drugs, he beats his wife. You know, Christopher is a horrible guy. And Tony lets him off loads of times. So you do think he is going to kill him in that spot, which makes it so exciting. But he doesn't, and then he ends up killing him after the car accident where Christopher says he's pretty much confirming that he still does drugs. And the disappointment on Tony's face, that's why he kills him there. So things like that are just so heartbreaking. Like, that's the thing. The thing is with Sopranos that's so unpredictable. You can watch it and it can be like all like cool, you know, mafia's talking, eating their spaghetti all the time, and, you know, playing golf as well. Full on, like, just kind of normal stuff. And then the next episode, someone gets whacked. So a character you like gets whacked as well. Pussy as well. The fact he's called Pussy is quite funny, but again, he's a character that I liked, and he was also a very confused, quite dumb character, but he loved Tony. He loved Tony, he loved his family. He was heartbroken that he was a rat, but just the fact you know, of course they had to put him out. You know, there's literally characters you don't want to die, but they get whacked anyway. Bobby as well, literally he seems like such a friendly guy. He marries Janice, he loves like trains and stuff. He gets whacked. Like, there's so many like characters, they're all bad because they're mafias, but that you just watch them, and that's what's kind of so clever with the writing. These are all legit like anti-heroes, like, yeah, mafias, but you still have reasons to care about them. I just like how funny the show is as well. When Paulie has the painting of Tony, Paulie has so many funny moments. One of the best episodes, actually, is when it's Paulie and Christopher when they're stuck in the woods. That is such a funny, great episode. The way everyone talks, the way everyone talks is just so ridiculously funny. But Paulie especially, like that. I think the big thing about Paulie's character actually is how much of an idiot he is. That's what makes him a great character. And obviously his acting, the way he talks, but every thing he does, everything he says, every decision he makes, he is so stupid and dumb. And that's what the big thing about Paulie's character for me, is how much of a moron he is. Janice killing Richie as well, that was something I really did not expect. I don't think anyone did when they were watching. Like, they literally just got married, and then next minute, Janice kills Richie. Like, these are the crazy things that can happen in The Sopranos. Even Tony with the women who he's having an affair with Carmela, they are also, quite interesting and very crazy, stories. Especially the one with Gloria. Gloria is, a crazy person, and Tony knows that, and he knows he can't continue this on. And especially when she's telling Tony that if he leaves her, she's got to call the family, things like that. And even one of the girls he's having an affair with, the other girl, that's how Carmela finds out about the affair. So that even makes it more intense and exciting and just very deep. Another character is Silvio as well, if I even said his name correctly, but he's a proper nothing but just mafia. Just look at that face and that weird haircut of his as well. But you could say that about every character in this. Everyone just looks perfectly and so accurate. They don't look like actors. They just look like mafias. It's just crazy how accurate The Sopranos feels. It literally feels like watching a documentary about the mafia. It's weird how real it feels like, and how do they know the mafia is like this? It's literally like they're just mafias and they're creating a show out of it. That is how real The Sopranos is to me. It just feels literally like watching a documentary. The Sopranos is just filled with so many amazing characters with huge, great personalities, and I do think it ends very, very well. It's not a show that disappoints. I cannot recommend it enough, even though I've spoiled the whole thing, so I imagine you've seen it anyway. Literally everyone, greatest acting of all time. The Sopranos is one of the best shows I've ever seen in my life, and absolutely, without question, gets a 10 out of 10. Okay, hopefully if you've watched all of this, I appreciate you a lot. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, and it was a masterpiece. So yeah, that's about it. See ya.